Hey, this is PJ with CLK Supplies, and welcome to part 1 of Masterkeying systems. Now, in this little series, it's going to be similar to the SFIC series. I'm going to walk you through the 2 most popular ways to set up a master key system. The first one is progression systems, which I'll cover in this video, and then in part 2, I'll cover the hold and vary system. Now, I'm going to be using the 80-20 principle while I do this, and that means I'm going to be giving you 20% of the information that's going to cover 80% of what you need to know. Now, I have made a PDF worksheet that in the notes below you can download and print out, and you can follow me through this. I'm going to put a bunch of extra little tips and tricks in there, but I have one goal with doing this, and that is by the time you're done watching this video, you will know and understand how to set up a progression master keying system. You'll know what to look out for, and you'll know how to put in a sub-master key if you need to, but I'm going to give you the information that you need to do it. Now, why is this important? I think it's important for 2 main reasons. The first is that if you're out on a job and all of a sudden a basic rekey turns into a master keying job, that you have the ability to just pull out a notepad and get done what you need to get done. And the other reason is that when you use computer-generated master key systems, which is great, and I highly recommend you do so, you want to be able to understand what's going on there. And you want to be able to look at the sheets, see how the system was set up, and it's going to really help you as you continue to master key, job after job after job. So now let's go ahead and let's get started. All right, in progression systems, there are 4 rules. Rule number 1. No cut in the master key is used in any change key in the same position. Now, in a minute, we'll be writing on the whiteboard here and you'll see that. Rule number 2. Each cut on a change key must be at least 2 depths or 2 steps different than any other cut on another change key. Rule number 3. The master key should use the even-odd or odd-even key bitting pattern, meaning you either want to set it up with an odd, even, odd number, or an even, odd, even number, and that way it's going to prevent shear lines such as 2-2, 2-2. Rule number 4. The master key should have at least 1 0 depth, or the shallowest depth available. So for example, in Schlage, the depths available are 0 through 9, so you'd want to have at least 1 0 on the master key. Or if it was a quick set, which the depths are 1 through 6 or 1 through 7, you would want to have at least 1 number 1 depth on the master key. So those are the 4 rules. Let's go ahead and we'll take those and we'll apply them to building a system. All right, it's time to develop our first progression master key system. The first step is going to be to determine the master key bitting or code. Now, we want to keep in mind all the steps. We want to make sure that there's at least 1 shallow cut or 0, depth in there. We also want to make sure we're going to follow the odd even or even odd sequence. So we'll go up here to the whiteboard and we'll put in our code, which will be 0, 5, 2, 7, 4. So as you can see, we went even, odd, even, odd, even. Now, I'm going to do my best to write as clear as possible. I've been known to kind of have chicken scratch, so I'm going to do my absolute best. I'm going to work with what I got here and try to make it as legible as possible. Remember, print out the PDF in the link below, and that way you'll be able to have a nice computer generated of this exact equation here. So now that we have our master key bitting, I'm just going to put master next to that so you know, just like that. Step number 2 is going to be to progress the whole system out, okay? Now, this is where a little knowledge needs to come in, and we're doing a Schlage system here, a 5-pin Schlage system, and the depths available are going to be 0 through 9, okay? Now, let's say if you don't want to use the 9 and you only wanted to use 0 through 8. You can definitely do that. I mean, it's up to you how you want to progress it out. But for this, we're going to use 0 through 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to progress out each available option here. Right now we're doing the two-step, which is like a number 2 master pin. So we're gonna do these in 2s. So we're gonna go, it's gonna be 0, then we're gonna put 2, 4, 6, 8. All right, now that's all the available between 0 through 9. Now for the 5, we're gonna go 7, 9, 1, 3. So I just went all the way up. I went to 7, then 9, then 1, then 3. We'll do the same thing on here. So it's 2, so that's gonna be a 4, 6, 8, 0. For the 7, we're gonna go 9, 1, 3, 5. Just like that there. Lost my train of thought there for a second. Go to the last one here. It's gonna be a 6, 8. Then we're gonna go back down to 0, then 2. Okay? So that is everything we've just progressed out right there. Now, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take this blue marker here. I'm just gonna kind of draw around this for a minute because this is everything that we're going to be doing for this master key system is generated just off of these numbers right here, okay? Now, I'm gonna put an equation in the PDF document on how you can figure out at this step exactly how many codes you need to figure out and write down, okay? It's a very simple equation. I'll give you a couple of examples in it, and that way you can figure out that math. Okay, now that we've progressed out our numbers here, it's time to write our codes. Now, after you figure out exactly how many codes you need, now we're gonna start progressing all of this out here. Now, for this example, we're just gonna progress out 1 chamber. But I need you to know that you can progress out this whole thing. You can take all of these and you can get literally, I don't know, without doing the math, probably a little over 1,000 change keys just off these numbers here, okay? So what we'll do is I'm going to progress out these last 2 chambers here. So this chamber right here and this chamber right here. So we're gonna start with just doing this row, okay? So what we're gonna do, so do it right down here, is this we're gonna start writing. We're gonna go 2, 7, 4, 9, 6, okay? Now we're gonna bring this down, okay? So we're gonna forget the 6's there, and we're gonna take the 9, then we're gonna go 8. So right here, we're just gonna put an 8 underneath it, so it'd be a 2, 7, 4, 9. Oh, it's a little messy there. Let me clean that up. Okay, so we have a 2, 7, 4, 9, 8. Now the next one underneath the 8 is a 0, so we can put a 0 there, and we can put a 2 underneath it, just like that. Now we can just fill this in if we want. Once you get familiar doing it, you don't need to fill it in because you can just, you'll know what you have going on. Okay, so now we've progressed the 9, and then we've progressed, from the 9, we've progressed the 6, the 8, the 0, the 2. Now we'll go to the next one here. So we're going to move past this, and we're gonna go on to the 1. So now we're gonna go 1, 6, 8, 0, 2. Okay, let's do that. So we're gonna go 2, 7, 4, 1, 6, 2, 7, 4, 1, 8, 2, 7, 4, 1, 0, 2, 7, 4, 1, 2. Okay, now we've progressed that next one. So now we'll go ahead and we'll go down to this 3 right here. Okay, so right next to it here, we'll go 2, 7, 4, 3, 6, right? 2, 7, 4, 3, 6. Then we'll do the same thing. We'll go 2, 7, 4, 3, 8. 2, 7, 4, 3, 0. 2, 7, 4, 3, 2. Okay, now we've progressed that. We'll do this one last time to make sure you understand the concept and how you can progress all of this out, because you can keep moving, right? So you can keep moving down through each one as you go. But now we'll go ahead and we'll do the 5 right here, okay? So right over here, we'll go 2, 7, 4, 5, 6, 2, 7, 4, 5, 8, 2, 7, 4, 5, 0, and 2, 7, 4, 5, 2. All right, so there you go. So we went ahead and we've progressed these 2 full columns here, and we have all of our codes now. Now, once you progress through and you get the amount of code you need, we're gonna go on to the next step. All right, now that we've progressed out some codes, it's time to check them, and that's what step 4 is. Step 4 is to check for unusable codes. Now, what unusable really means is a term that we call the MACS, which stands for Max Adjacent Cut Specification. What that means is that the cuts next to each other, if you have a really, really deep cut next to a really, really high cut, well, first of all, you're not going to be able to cut the key most likely. And if you can, when you stick the key in, it's going to get stuck and you're not going to be able to pull the key out, or you're not going to be able to get the key in. So now you have to make sure you know what the MACS is, and I'll put a list of them in the PDF document. But for Schlage, it's 7, right? So anything above 7, so like a 1 and a 9, a 0 and an 8, those type of things, right? The max adjacent cut is greater than 7. So they're not going to be able to work. And so you have to identify those and you have to take them out of your system. Otherwise, you're going to spend a bunch of time on figuring out the actual bitting to pin up the cylinder, cut the key, and then it's not going to work, right? It's going to waste your time. So you want to make sure you don't skip this step. You want to make sure that you take your time during this step. I think it's the easiest to kind of rush through. But let's go ahead and let's look through these codes and let's see which ones we need to get rid of. So is what I'm doing is I have MA, I have the 7 is the number I'm thinking of, so I'm just immediately going, I'm like, okay, 0 through 9, 1 through 9, that kind of thing, and trying to get it in my head here. So we start going through here, and anytime we have like a 9 in our system right here, or an 8 or zeros, that's when it's gonna start to kind of, get your attention. So I just like to surf through, and I'm always looking for 9s and 0s. So I'm gonna go through here, and as you can see, we have on this code right here, we have a 24790. Well, that's greater than 7, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get rid of that code. That's an unusable code, okay? Next, we're gonna keep going. So we have a 9 and a 2. Well, the difference between that is 7, so we're good, right? So it's, if from a 2, we go 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So the difference between there is it's actually a 7, which is the max, right? So we're okay. So we'll keep going on here, and we have a 1 through an 8, right? So a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a 7. We're totally fine there as well, okay? Now, I know I'm taking it slow here. I just want to make sure you get the concept. So when we keep going through here, we keep going, looking for some other ones, and that's it. So the only unusable code in all of this is going to be this one here. Because now these ones, like the 1 through 8, right? Like I said, that's a 7. And then 1 through 6, all that, so we're fine. So all of these codes, but this one is now usable. Step number 5 is to go ahead and cut all your keys by code. So is what you'd want to do, depending on your numbering system, is you would want to put next to these codes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so on and so forth, right? So now you can go through and you can cut by code all of those keys. Step number 6 is to pin the cylinders. But before you do that, since we've done all of this by hand, we have to actually do the math, okay? Now, let's go ahead and we'll do it together. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the master key bitting, we'll stick it right here, we'll go 0, 5, 2, 7, 4, okay? And then let's go ahead and let's just take, let's take number 1 here, okay? So underneath it, we're gonna put 2, 7, 4, 9, 6, okay? So that is our master key, and that's key number 1. Now, I also have a PDF document that you can download that'll be in the notes below on once you get your key biddings. If you're struggling with what I'm about ready to do, you can download it, and it's going to take you step by step through it, and you'll really start to understand it, okay? So once we have these, is what we're going to do. It's real simple. We take the lower of the two numbers. So there's a 0 and there's a 2. So we're going to take the 0, right? Then underneath it, we're going to put the difference between the 0 and the 2, which happens to be a 2. Okay. Now this up here, this is going to be our bottom key, our bottom pins, and this is going to be our master pins. So we're going to do the same thing in the next column. There's a 5 and there's a 7. The lower number of the 2 is a 5, so that's going to be our bottom pin. Okay. And the difference between 5 and 7, well, is 2. So we're going to put a 2 there. And that way, I hope you understand. So is what's happening essentially is when one of the keys needs that number 7 cut, we're just taking the 5 and we're putting a little 2 master pin on it to create that number 7 bottom pin essentially. So let's go to the next one. So the lowest of the 2 and the 4 is a 2. The difference between the 2 and the 4 is once again 2. So we're going to put 2 there. Next, there's a 7 and a 9. The 7's the lowest. The difference between 7 and 9 is 2. So we're going to put another 2 right there. The last one here is a 4 and a 6. So we'll go ahead and we'll put a 4 there. And then the difference between 4 and 6 is a 2. So we'll put a 2 there. So there we go. So here is your key bidding. Now let's go through the rules and let's just talk about a few things. Right now, one of the number one questions we always get asked is, why is there so many master pins in this master key system? Right? I don't want to put a master pin in every single chamber. Totally get it, right? I mean, I think Masterkeying was once said to be, it's like the planned destruction of security, right? Every shear line that you create extra is a security problem, right? It's easier to manipulate. Totally get it. But that's just how these progression systems work, all right? So if you look here and we look at all this, let's just go through our rules and make sure that we got them all. Right? There's no rule number 1 is make sure that the change keys don't have any of the master key biddings in those sections. Now, that's important when we did it right here, right? If we were to go 2, 4, 6, 8, and then put a 0 down there, well, that's going to create all sorts of problems. But we didn't do that. We made sure that we kind of blocked this off, and we made sure this is everything that we're choosing from, not up here on the master key. Next, step number 2, we went through and we made sure that each cut on the change key has at least a 2-step difference. Okay, that's how we did that, and that's how we progressed those out, just like that. Step number 3 is to make sure that we use the even odd or odd even sequence on the master key. Now you can see why this is important here, because if these were all even numbers, okay, or all odd numbers, all of a sudden, because we stack the number 2 master pin in every one of these chambers, it's gonna create problems, and you'll essentially be able to stick in, a number 2 key or a number 3 key or whatever it is, and it would open it. And we don't want that. So that's where stacking them. That's why it's so important. This is a good visual of why that's important right there. Step number 4, or rule number 4, was just to make sure that we have at least one 0 or one number 1 or the shallowest depth possible. And we did that right here on this first one. We put a 0 in there. Okay, so that is how you do the basic progression systems, and you can take that knowledge and you can expand it out. Okay, now I want to talk about sub-master keys for a moment. What happens if in this system right here, we need to put a sub-master key in? Okay, it's actually really simple to come up with it. I think you'll like this. Is what you're going to do is you're going to figure out what you did or didn't progress. Okay, so what on this system that we just made right here, what did we progress? Let me switch colors here, and is what didn't we progress? And what we didn't progress is this right here, 2, 7, 4. Those right there. So if you look at all these change keys, they all have 2, 7, 4 on them, right? Just like right there. What did we progress? Well, we progressed these 2 chambers, right? These 2 last ones, or just right here, the 7, 4. So to get a sub-master key, all you need to do is take what you didn't progress on the, or what you did progress on this master key and what you didn't progress on the progression here, and you can create your master key. So your master key for this system would just be a 2, 7, 4, 7, 4. And there you go. That's your sub-master key. It's that simple when you're doing it like this. You can just look at where on what you didn't progress on these change keys, and then on where you did, you take the master key bidding, and that's where you get your sub-master key. And so there you have it. So here's all the information you need to be able to start doing that, to start making these progression systems. In part 2, we're going to be going over hold and vary, and you're going to learn a whole different type of system and the benefits of it. But hey, 1 minute before you go, I want to address a real common question. And that question is on the top pins, right? So if you're going in and you're master keying a cylinder, do you need to change the top pin size? If you do, how do you do that? How does that work? Well, it's really simple, and let me show it to you. Now, it's good practice to change the top pin out, right? Because of the spring tension that's on it. You don't want it too tight. I think if you've ever tried master keying a cylinder, especially if you didn't follow some of the rules I just listed, and you go to stick the key in, well, maybe it won't even go in. Or if you try to pull it out, it's really tough. If you did follow the system or the rules, the problem is going to be in the top pin size, okay? Now, let me explain to you. We're going to use this example here. I'm going to explain to you how you can calculate and check, okay? So let's say that the standard Schlage top pin is a 0.200, okay? That's the size. But since we're in this with this master key here, we went ahead and we are putting number 2s in the chambers as well, right? Now, what is a number 2 master pin in Schlage? It's a 0.030. Okay, so we're gonna go and put that up there for this pin stack right here. So it's gonna be a 0.030. So what you need to do is you just need to do the math, and you need to subtract that 0.030 from the 200, which is going to be a 170. So what you'd want to do is you want to replace the standard 0.200 top pin with a 0.170. Now, same thing goes, let's say if we added the master key in, or we added some more keys, and let's say there was extra 2s in some of these chambers, okay, X means nothing, is what you would want to do is you would take, your 200 bottom pin, and then you'd want to subtract both of the master pins, which would leave you with a 140. Okay, so what you'd want to do is you would replace that 200 top pin with a 0.140. It's really that simple. All you need to do is, if you're running into these problems or you want to make that lock just operate just perfect, you're going to want to just subtract the master pin lengths from the top pin to get you to that. So that's how you calculate the top pins. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in part 2.